Okay, can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
yep. All right, great. So hi, everyone. Thank you, Tasia. I really appreciate the introduction. So my name is Justin Hahn. I'm the Learning Solutions Operations Manager. So I had the privilege of working with this great crew of folks here at Department of Enterprise Services. And as you know, we do all things operations to help make these classes that you all instruct and oftentimes create curricula for come to life. So we have sort of like we help broker the deal between the customer, instructor, and us. And so it's really great to work with you all and hear some. I want to provide some updates, which includes sort of how we're doing business, how it's moving forward, etc. So, what I will say is that as Tasia initially said about some new folks that we have on the team, some newer folks. We have Sharon Page, who is a learning consultant, who is, we actually, because of the great need that we've identified, that we knew was coming with regards to developing all the requests for proposals that we did, and then the bids that we received and those that were awarded, translating that into actual consistent, clear course descriptions and learner registration rates to take the class and getting them scheduled and things like that is Sharon Page is our person. So not only does she focus on all kinds of different things because she's been learning sort of the way that we do business, including LinkedIn Learning, she has been really putting things on a fast track to get things at the very least out on the web pages. Now, I'm not talking about elective diversity, equity, inclusion training because I know we'll have some updates on that in a little bit. But everything else, we're pretty close to having things, almost everything being on the website. So if there isn't a class that's actually scheduled, if somebody's looking, they'll be able to see something and be able to ask about it. And so that could be developed into a single agency agreement or possibly an open enrollment class. We have a lot of new classes. We have some classes that we are wonderful legacy classes that we've seen provided for many years, and we also have a lot of new classes that our audience and our customer base is just getting used to. So Sharon's a big part of that, and she's doing a great job. And then Amina El Nagar started recently and is actually part of works with Christopher and Renee on the required DEI training team, operations team, and they work with our internal content delivery folks, the creators and the delivery for the required DEI training, where in 5 years the task is to train up about 70,000 state employees as it's a required course. So that's really exciting, and things are really moving forward. So Amina's a great help to that. And then Christopher, who used to be in the training center, is now a learning consultant with the required DEI training. So and works with Renee West and Amina. So doing a great job there as well. I also wanted to mention that we've had some, it's more of an FYI. At this point, it may not affect you all that much, but just in case you sort of hear something, I wanted you all to know that we've had a reorganization, which happens from time to time. And so we all work for Department of Enterprise Services, and we are divided or sectioned out into different divisions. And you may have heard one of our acronyms, one of our previous division was Workforce Support and Development, or WSD. That has now changed to Equity and Employee Development. So that's EED, Equity Employee Development. And we're still Workforce Learning and Performance. So the sort of program underneath that division is still the same that we all are a part of. There's been a leadership change at that division level. So Adrienne Thompson, who has for the last, year and a half or more, has been the Chief Equity Officer for the Department of Enterprise Services agency, so specifically internally. But in the last 6 to 12 months, he's been involved in leading the rollout of the required DEI training, hiring trainers, and then working with our operations team, Christopher, Renee, and Amina, to help push out those classes and work out any operational kinks that need to be worked out. So he's really wearing a lot of hats right now. but there, I don't know if any of you have worked with Joanne Lee, who used to work on our leadership, leading others team, providing classes, but she is our new deputy director for our division. So that's just some news. There are no changes to vendor processes. Vendors will still work with Learning Solutions, so all the people that you've talked with thus far, just like you have all along. But nonetheless, it is a change, so I wanted to just put that out there. So I mentioned, we talked about our RFP process and how Sharon Page has been doing an excellent job with getting all of these RFP, building all of these courses. So we're currently at 98% complete for course descriptions, so complete course descriptions for the courses that were awarded to the RFP. The courses that were built in our class track system, so that's the sort of the first step in getting them into, so it's seen on the website, so that it is built in the learning management system. We have 2 systems, so about 98% are in there as well. And then we're at about 64% for actually scheduling for FY24, which starts in, well, we're in it now, it started July 1st. And so that's the one where we're still lagging behind a little bit, but that includes all of the courses that were provided, all the competitive courses and all the market basket, which just means the ones that were required, like the required classes that we were soliciting, as well as the optional ones. So we're really moving along and getting those out there. But again, there are some growing pains with regards to learners getting, understanding, training managers understanding the new content and what they might want to send their learners to, whether it's an open enrollment or single agency agreement class. But we're really making some headway, and it's to a large degree. I want to thank Sharon for that. And then elective DEI classes, I wanted to mention something about this. There's really nothing has changed. So really, a couple months ago, we sent out a communication. We had intended originally to roll out the elective DEI, which is one of the categories which there's a lot of interest in everywhere, DEI in general. So that was part of our RFP process. And I know it's been frustrating for folks that were awarded contracts for that part of our leadership change with regards to our required DEI class that I mentioned that all 70,000 state employees need to take, is what they decided was, let's hold off on pushing those electives forward because we want to just focus on the required DEI classes for now, or class for now. And that was a decision that was made. And that's going to be revisited here at the beginning of the fall. And so if that does change, and as soon as that does change, because we're very excited for all the elective DEI courses that some of you have put forward, that we would be able to release those. They're actually all built, they're all ready to go, but they're in stage. So we would just need to flip the switch. So we would be able to do that very quickly once we get the go ahead from our leadership to do that. But so I appreciate your patience, and I know that's been frustrating for some of you. So I'm going to stop right there. I'm just going to ask if there are any questions or follow-up based on anything that I've said or reported out on, and then I'll hand it over to Tasia. So any questions or comments on things that I mentioned? Go ahead and just take yourself off and mute.
Justin, real quick, I have a question. Yeah. This is Sandra Cohen. Is the DEI training that the employees need to take, is that something as instructors we would be able to attend? Just, you know, I have had a lot of DEI training, but, you know, knowing what people are getting coming into our classes could really maximize.
We have talked about that, and that's a great idea, I think. And there's been a real priority on those that really need to take it. But things are changing and evolving in real time, you know, as we learn the best way to roll this out. And I think that could be, so I think we're not ready for that right now, but that is one of the ideas that we're actively talking about, so that when we do roll out, one of the concerns was like, well, we want to make sure that the sort of the dovetailing of the elective and the required DEI fit together really well. One way to do that would be for those elected DEI instructors to take the required DEI course, as you're talking about. So that's an idea that we put forward. So good idea, I think.
Still more to come.
Yeah, still more to come, but we're okay. Excited about that possibility. Yeah, definitely. And I think that would be a great way, a great step. Thanks for the comment. All right. Yes, Lee Mosina, thank you. I think we'll be better able to address learner gaps. I agree. Okay, Tasia, would you like to talk about annual scheduling approach?
Yes. So like Justin mentioned, right now for courses scheduled for FY24, we're at 64%. So that's a little over half. We're trying to get there. So just know that I know that bringing Sharon on was super helpful in getting all of these courses built out. And now we need to, now that we have them built out, now we can go in and we can start scheduling those classes. We would have liked to do that a little bit sooner, but some of you might know the end of the fiscal year, which was in June, becomes super, super busy for a lot of people with single agency requests and whatnot. So we're hoping now that that's kind of lulled out, we can start really focusing on doing more of that scheduling. Just to give you a general overview, generally how we do or we begin strategizing for our annual scheduling, which would be for the next fiscal year. So it would be actually, we're going to try to get caught up with this fiscal year until the end of the June, what is it? June 2024 is the end of this fiscal year. But generally for the whole fiscal year, we start strategizing that towards the end of this year for July 2024 through June 2025. That's generally how it works. And what that means is that each learning consultant will be reaching out directly to each of you to start scheduling out for those classes. And there's a lot of strategy involved in that. Namely, one of those is to try to help boost enrollment opportunities or enrollment levels. We try not to schedule classes that are similar to each other within the same month, and we kind of try to stage that throughout the year appropriately to try to make sure that we're not running into any kind of conflict. So I'm not going to have like 2 writing style classes within the same month or within 30 days of each other. Hopefully that's spread out, like we skip a month and then we have another. And so if you can imagine, we have a lot of classes and we need to do a lot of strategy behind that to make sure that we are trying to get the most enrollment in those classes. So we start planning that towards the end of the year. And what we'll do is what that looks like is a learning consultant will reach out to you and say, these are the courses that you offer under my portfolio. These are the months that I want you to provide dates to me of when I'd like to offer this class. And so if it's an open enrollment or for open enrollment, if it's a virtual class, you can provide us with any date under the sun. We just try to ask that we're not going to be scheduling any classes on a Monday or a Friday, because that's usually when a lot of state workers have flex schedules and they're off on either of those days. So to really boost enrollment, we're really trying to focus on that Tuesday through Thursday timeframe. Of course, avoiding holiday weekends, extended holiday weekends, because that could also impact enrollment levels. So we'll ask you, please provide us with a date for virtual training. If we say that we want to offer it as a in-person training, there's again strategy involved in that with trying to minimize winter months. There might be some travel, and so we're trying to do more virtual around those winter months. But if we say like, hey, we want to offer this class as an in-person class, then we're going to ask that you provide us with 3 dates. Because we need to try to organize that or coordinate that with our classrooms in the building. And so we're going to work together the multiple learning consultants now that we have. We're going to try to coordinate those classrooms and plug in those dates. So that's generally what that communication is going to look like. And you should be seeing that more towards the end of the year for that fiscal year. But we're going to be trying to reach out probably before that for this year, the 2023 through 2024 June timeframe, if we haven't done that already with you. So that's just kind of a brief overview of kind of what's to come. I'll let any of the learning consultants, if I miss something, pitch in, or if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay. Then we can go on to the next section, which would be over to Marcia for evaluation expectations.
Thank you, Tasia. We have some exciting and some significant changes to our evaluation form. So I'd like to just share my screen real quickly. And on our vendor resources page, one of the links that we have are evaluation questions. Okay, so can everybody see that okay? Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, so first of all, the number of evaluation questions have increased from 11 to 13 questions. The questions are either going to be the Likert scale, or they're going to be, you know, comment required kinds of questions. So there are more questions on this new design that require comment feedback than we had previously. Previously, most of them were on the Likert scale. Okay, and so the Likert scale was reorganized to present strongly disagree first, and then disagree, neutral, agree, and then strongly agree. And this has caused quite a bit of confusion, and we do understand that, and we recognize that, and we are working as quickly as possible to get those changed around. And the reason we're sharing this with you is because if you've already started to see some of the responses on the evaluation forms coming in, you're going to have to take a good look at it to make sure, particularly if you're getting a lot of strongly disagrees, but, you know, very favorable comments. It's probably that the learner was just so used to that top box being strongly agree, and they just, you know, clicked real quickly and didn't recognize that it's the top box is now strongly disagree. So we've had a few instances where that has actually happened. So take a good look at those evaluation forms when you see them. Okay. Also, the optional entries were scaled back. At the top of the evaluation form, there was an option for the learner's name, their email address, and a lot of other questions like instructor name, name of class. Well, we have that information already captured, so did not need to have that on the evaluation form. So now the only optional entries are name and email address, and supervisor name and email address. Okay, and so here are some of the questions that are on the new form. I'll just give you a chance to look at that. And then once again, we have a lot more comments so that you can get more feedback. Okay, and then these are the others. So when you get an opportunity, go ahead and take a look at the new evaluation questions on the vendor webpage. Okay. So also wanted to talk about new guidance that you recently received from us concerning your an opportunity for your learners to provide evaluations during your classes, during your virtual classes. And so let me just bring up, let's see. Okay, yeah. You should have received this email a couple of weeks ago from DES asking that you take an opportunity during your virtual trainings to give your learners a chance to go ahead and log in and fill out that evaluation. This is just very, very important to help us to increase that that return rate for the evaluations. So if you can just carve out 5 to 10 minutes at the end of your class and just give the learners an opportunity to go ahead and fill out that evaluation form. They can log right in, from their computers. And this, once again, this is only for the virtual classes. We don't have this expectation for the in-person classes. Okay, so yeah, so just about 5 minutes next to the last part of your class, just ask your learners to go ahead and log in, fill out the evaluation form, and then just continue to share with learners that their feedback is so essential to ensuring that we're continuing to improve upon our training programs. So, are there any questions on evaluation forms so far?
I have a question on top of your question, Marcia.
Go for it.
If I could. All right. How has this gone for folks, for instructors, with regards to second to the last agenda item for virtual trainings? What's it been like? Has it been easy? Has it been hard with regards to directing learners to the evaluation during class time? I'm just wondering what people. Don Reed says it's been easy. Yeah, any feedback would be greatly appreciated. Take yourself off of mute or in the chat, please. Thank you. If you haven't gotten around to it yet, please do review what Marcia was just talking about, that email, or we have it on the website as she just indicated. That is something that we're going to continue to talk with you about so that we can complete that circuit. We know we have really great classes. We want to show that learner experience corroborates that. And of course, not every time it does. And so we can sort of refine and make better. But there's multiple reasons for us wanting to capture this information for you all, but also for us. Yes, Dr. Iverson.
Hey. Just quick throw out. I haven't found anybody who really resists doing the evaluations, but I have multiple times had people have a hard time getting to the evaluations. And so I asked Tasia to send me a link. So she gave me this link. I stuck it into the chat box and everybody said, oh, that's so easy, we can do that. But before that, everybody's going, I hate doing evaluations and you can't get them and on and on. So that made my life way easier. I've been using it ever since. So just FYI.
Yeah, if you don't have that link, it doesn't ever change. We can get that sent out. Maybe we can include that in the email that we send out after this with this recording. And so that way, when you're in chat, like Larry provided, it's super easy to just copy paste that same link and put it into the chat after or towards the end of your training. And all the learners should be able to be directed to their own profile to fill out that evaluation.
That is a great idea. Thank you, Tasia.
And I wanted to let the facilitators know too, as we do track the completion rate for our classes. We're looking at how many people attended the class and how many people are filling out those evaluations. And some instructors are doing an amazing job. Like some of them almost are near 100%. I know we'll never get there consistently because it's about whether the learners are going to take time to actually do that, but it's definitely, we've seen an improvement. So I wanted to thank you for the vendors that are doing that.
Okay, so if there are no further questions on evaluations, I'll turn it over to Christopher and Renee.
Thank you, Marcia. Good afternoon, everybody. I have a couple administrative points that we would like to cover. The first is a request for quick responses for SAA inquiries. As Tasia stated earlier, at the end of the biennium, agencies have training budgets that they try to utilize, and there is a quick turnaround need for some of those inquiries. hopefully help us help you and your business by responding as expeditiously as possible, so we can process those and get those on the books for some of these agencies that are looking for quick turnarounds. That's primarily end of the summer or early summer as the biennium comes to a close. But the quicker you can turn those around, the more business we can help facilitate. Let's see, next piece. Invoices and rosters, we really need these within a week of the final class session. They get processed together. We can't really do our piece without both. We do them separately, but we do need both to complete the invoicing process. To get you paid faster, we need to bill out faster. So we need both the roster and your invoice as soon as possible. At your convenience. We received feedback from training managers and learners about them not finding emails. So we've standardized the subject line to say training links for class title sequence number. And I believe we're trying to CC the facilitator or the vendor catch-all email address when those are going out, to keep instructors and vendors in the loop as to what is being communicated when. To that end, as it pertains to links and materials, we are asking for all single agency offering stuff delivered to us on the same cadence as open enrollment information. So a couple weeks prior to that, at the go no go date, we're starting to track the SAA go no goes the same way as the open enrollment classes. We didn't used to, because we just say, hey, we're opening an opportunity for them to learn, and it's up to them to fill the seats. But especially in these quick turnaround SAA offerings, when those come up, there have been seats that haven't been filled, and we want to make sure to stay ahead of that. So we're adding the single agency classes to our normal cadence of go no goes, just so we can reach out to agency admins and say, hey, you only got 2 people for this class. What's going on with that? But in order to keep up with that, we'd like our vendors to treat those as open enrollment this on the same cadence, and share with us the login information for virtual deliveries and any necessary materials as well. For those of you communicating out on your own, any communication that you might do to the learners, please CC your consultant and or training info, so we can track that for learners, late additions, etc. I think that might have been it for my piece. I whipped through that. Were there any questions, or should I just give it to Rachel and move forward without any opportunity for responses?
Well, I'd like to add one thing. I would say when you're, like Christopher suggested, we want to do the majority of the communication for learners. So if that's sent to the training info team, then they can share that out. But think of it as, if you do reach out to any learners, we need to be informed of that back and forth communication. And so that's why it's really important to copy that training info at des.wa.gov. They are the hub for all learners. All learners will reach out to them to ask any questions. So if you're communicating out something, they need to be kind of looped in. So just remember that email address and include that with any communication that doesn't go through our team.
One thing to add as an addendum to your addendum there, as some of our roles are shifting, some of you may be in the habit of communicating directly with an individual who may no longer be directly dealing with that. So it's important to use the catch-all or the team emails. Training info at des.wa.gov is the Learning Solutions team, and then the consultants have one as well. But as these shift, I don't mind responding, but I'm getting a lot of requests from those of you used to contacting me directly that really, for the sake of the team, need to be directed to the team email, so others have access to that as well.
I think he froze. Is he done?
Yes.
Oh no, I just stopped. There was a hard stop and scene.
No. Oh gosh. Thanks, Christopher. Hi, everybody. I'm Renee. And I'm going to talk just for a minute about in-person training as we all continue to transition back into some in-person training. Some of you had trained for us in person in the past. Some of you have yet to be in one of our facilities. But what we want to do is we have for in-person classes, we have some information that we ask that instructor facilitators share with the class. And we're going to provide you with this information in an email after the training, along with the recording and the link information. But what we have done, and Marcia is a huge part of this. She's amazing. If for those of you that don't deal with her, she's always great at jumping in and offering to assist. But what you're looking at right here, can you all see my screen? Okay. She's created just a PowerPoint, 2 PowerPoint slides that if you have a PowerPoint presentation, you can just add this to your slide deck and put it up on one of our screens. And then, you know, just talks about in case of an emergency, you know, where you should park, where you can't go, which is the famous employee deck that is limited access. Anyhow, so she's created this slide, and then there will be notes, or there are notes here that you can use to read off to the participants. We will also have, I believe, a paper option in the classrooms. Also, there will be additional information for the learners, much more detailed information in each training room, I believe in a folder at the front table or front desk. So learners will have access to that if they choose. So anyhow, and we're moving forward with more and more in-person trainings. So anyhow, any questions on this particular slide? Right.
Renee, did you say where this is going to be accessible from?
Well, I did not, but I believe it'll be accessible on the website. Will it be attached? Okay, to the instructors. Okay.
Vendor resource page.
Vendor resource, yes.
And I put a link in the chat for that.
Okay, thank you. And then the only other thing that I have to let you know about is I'm sure you've all seen our instructor guides on the website, or we've provided them to you. We are working on updating those, and when that information is updated and becomes available, we will share that out to you as well as the website. Any questions?
Say for those who have never done an in-person training, you're welcome, because that script was like 10 to 15 minutes long of reading. So.
Yes, it's condensed, quite condensed.
Yeah, if I could actually say something, Renee, thank you for that. I think it's really important, and that, you know, it's important to get the information out there. It's also important to, you know, talk about the most important stuff, and then provide people with direction for the full meal deal. You know, at the front of the near the door, we'll have those, as you indicated, for people to read all of the announcements and information about emergency situation. That actually got me thinking about something I wanted to mention in the beginning. So this is timely, it won't take too much time. We're doing an upgrade of the training center, so a technological as well as safety upgrade of the training center. So right now we're running about, for every 100 classes, we have 25 that are scheduled, about 25 are in person, 75 are virtual. So that's been creeping up over time, and we'll figure out what the sweet spot is, because it's all based on demand. So we have, as some of you, or maybe all of you know, but some of you may not have had the opportunity to be in the training center. So it's at 1500 Jefferson on the edge of the Capitol campus. And we have 6 training rooms. We have 2 labs, computer labs, and we have 4 training rooms, 3 that are smaller. I can't remember, what is it, 32 or 33, maybe 35 max capacity, and 1 big one, which is training room 4, which is almost 50. So we're in the process of updating. We have put safety upgrades are, and this is really having all of you in mind. And then we've talked about this over the years, but it's been a long time coming. We have blinds next to all the doors. There's windows of a whole big windows. Now we have blinds there, so we can close those in the event of like a God forbid, an active shooter type situation. So that could be a way to sort of minimize exposure into the classroom. And then probably more importantly, we're also installing these panic or safety buttons. They've already been installed. We're going to be trained on how to use them in August, and we'll share that information with you all, which is in the classroom. Press it, it locks all the doors to all 6 of the classrooms on the floor, and anybody outside cannot come in. If you're inside, you can get out. But between the shades and that, it's much more of a protective measure. Thank you for that clarifying information, Christopher, in the chat. So that's really great. And then the last thing I'll say is technologically, we're updating Classroom 1 with speakers, microphones, projectors, and all that stuff, as well as Classroom 4, so our largest and one of our smaller classrooms. We're not updating all of them at the same time for technology, but all of them will be updated or have been updated for safety. And that's, to keep us all safe, including you and the learners. So I just wanted to take a moment to mention that. So back to you, Renee. I don't know if you have anything else that you'd like to say.
No, I think that's it.
So,
yeah, thank you.
Okay, so over to you, Tasia. Unless there's, I guess there could be a time for questions now.
Yeah, so I think we're moving really quickly through our agenda, so we'll probably be wrapping up early, but we'll see how this next section goes. So we're going to jump into any kind of Q&A. So if anybody doesn't matter whether we've talked about it today, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask of DES, if you have any questions that, things that are going well, things that you are having hardships with, if you want to ask the other facilitators. So kind of opening the floor for just group conversation, questions, concerns, all of that stuff. And please feel free to either raise your hand or take yourself off mute or put it in chat if you feel more comfortable doing that. Susan, yes.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I just want to give a big shout out to Christopher, Sharon, and Rachel, who have been very helpful to me as we are a new program, the Center for Dependable Strengths, with Equity Employee Development, Enterprise Services. So thanks to you 3 particularly, because I think I've bugged you a little bit on email, but it's been very helpful. And that's kind of what I want to bring up. And I don't know if it's a question as much as it's a request. Being a new person in this realm, it gets a little confusing at times. And I think those of you who've been around for a while kind of get that. And it's not because there's not a lot of rich information. It's not because these meetings, they're so useful. I'm so grateful for these meetings. It's just because it's new and we're trying to figure out the lay of the land. And so, we've offered, of course, a series of trainings for this year, of which the first one didn't fly. And I'm not even sure right now yet about the status of the second. So because I like to be proactive, I'm thinking, what can I do to help things move forward as well? Because I don't really think I understand the inner workings. I know people can find out about trainings through the website. I know there's some people that have been doing trainings for a long time, so they know where to go and where to find. But I also see that there's so many trainings on the website that I just sort of wonder how you as a staff, because you talked earlier, Justin, you talked earlier about building awareness around the available resources, the available trainings. How do you as a staff approach that, particularly with new programming to your site? And what is it I can do as a person involved with the Center for Dependable Strengths to advance our work to state employees? I guess that is a question.
Rachel or Tasia, do you want to take this?
I can jump in a little bit. So one thing that we do on our team is and unfortunately, we have a communications position that we were working really closely with to get word out about all of the new programs that we brought on. She did a great job initially of that, but she stepped into a new role. So we're currently hiring for another communications manager in that department. And I think that recruitment, hopefully, I believe is underway. So we're going to be partnering again with whomever that new person is going to be to really help us drive some of that communication. But in the meantime, we also, people that have been around for a while know that this as well, but we send out a flyer every month to it's available for people that want to sign up for the flyer, but we send this out to over 4,000, in between 4,000 and 5,000 people across the state that have signed up for this newsletter. But it's basically informing them of, and we schedule it out. So for an example, we schedule it out a month in advance. So for example, last week, we sent it out for the classes that are going to be taking place the mid-August through September, just to try to get word out a month early to try to get those enrollment numbers out, because we want to make sure that when we're reaching out to you to let you know, hey, we have this many people enrolled, we've given adequate opportunity to try to get those classes filled. In addition to that flyer, what you can do as a facilitator is, and I know this is going to be a little bit more difficult for new facilitators that have not built up that client base yet. But if you have customers that you've worked with in the past, certain state agencies, if you're currently doing classes for those state agencies, kind of keep a track record of who you're communicating out with. I know that some of our vendors do this already, where they're reaching out to some of those customers and saying, hey, you really enjoyed this training. I'm also going to be offering this training here in the near future. Some of our vendors have even brought on other state agencies out of state. For example, I have one vendor that is the Atlanta Police Department is going to be attending some of their open enrollment sessions that they have coming up, because we can serve those customers as well. So if you have a customer base that is state government, city employees, even out of state, you can say, hey, I offer this training through DES as open enrollment, single agency, and we can do that. So I would say to also do, as far as on your end, that's what you can do as well. We're asking that you please include us in that communication so we know kind of what's going out. Don't offer any services that you offer outside of DES. Those communications really should just be what you're offering through us, through the scheduled classes. But that's something that a lot of facilitators, or some facilitators, are doing as well. So I hope that kind of helps.
That's very helpful, because we work with workforce, colleges, universities, a lot of environments. So yeah, I wasn't sure if that was appropriate to do that. So it's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'd also like to add, that a lot of state employees or universities, and well, hopefully universities aren't the case, but a lot of state employees, they really look for trainings within the learning management system. And we have found that that's not a very helpful tool. I know that you all have access to the learning management system. It's kind of clunky, and trying to find trainings in there. The best format would be to show them our website where they can look for classes based off of categories. It's amazing to me that how many state employees just don't know that we have that website available to them, and it's a lot more comprehensive to find what you're looking for. It's a lot more learner friendly, where they've got the course descriptions. It lists out all of the open enrollment opportunities that we already have scheduled, the participant costs, like all the information that we're generally getting in emails of like, hey, that we don't see the participant costs or the course description. It's because they're looking at the learning management system, and it's just not as user friendly. And so that would be our request to you, is if you are talking to those customers, really direct them to the public website where they can find those trainings. Justin just put the link into the chat. Thank you. But yeah, we're trying to shift people more to looking there versus the learning management system.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I did spend quite a bit of time with that the other day, and it's a great site, and it is a lot more user friendly. So that's a great tip as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one more thing on that. Please know that if you're new with us, this time of the year, the beginning of the fiscal year is what we like to call it, from July it just things slow down. And the reason behind that is agencies are getting their new budget, their training dollars, trying to allocate how they're going to spend that throughout the year. And so we generally see enrollment really drop off the beginning of the fiscal year. So July through about August, September, and then things start ramping up back again. So I just want to put that out there for awareness purposes. I'm still getting a lot of single agency requests, which normally I see slow down this type of year or time of year, but I'm still getting quite a few. So that's promising. So I just wanted to make that aware or put that out there for awareness. Yes, Dr. Tracy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all,
Yeah.
thank you all for being so engaged in the process. I can see the work that's happening. I can see the progress. I had obviously, first of all, first question that I put in the chat was, when will the recording for this session be shared?
Hopefully tomorrow. I've got a lot of information to gather from all parties, and then the recording doesn't become available to us until shortly after this meeting. So I'll probably be trying to get that communication out tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you. So that will be the Zoom link and any resources.
Yep.
Perfect. And it sounds like there have been, I missed the very beginning of the session. I think I heard Lee Mosina mention the opportunity to review the required diversity class. And I actually had a conversation a couple weeks ago and asked the same thing. It sounds like that is happening. Was it approved? Maybe that's question number 2, and then I'll ask question number 3. So for existing DEI trainers to audit or review the required state training, has that been approved, or are you guys working on that still?
Yes, Dr. Harrell, that's a good question. So we're working on that that's one of the, we think, better practices as we roll this out. It might help our leadership ultimately say yes to running for allowing us to switch on the elective DEI courses, as if the elective DEI trainers have all taken that required course and know exactly what that material is, and so you can differentiate and complement, et cetera. So that's still pending, but that is something we're talking about. So.
Awesome. And what's your timeline? Do you have a proposed timeline for that?
The timeline from our DES leadership has said fall. So they're going to revisit it in fall. We did just have some bigger changes that I mentioned earlier at the top of the meeting with regards to our division and division leadership. It's Adrienne Thompson, who has been leading the required DEI training rollout, but is now the division leader as well of our new division. And so I don't know if that helps the timeline move faster or slower with regards to things on his plate, but it is something that is the plan right now. And if it was our choice here at the program level.
And can you hear me?
What? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying, he was the one I actually spoke to a couple of weeks ago, and he seemed to be very purposeful about what he was trying to do and the improvements that he wanted to see. So it was very encouraging that you have a leader who is now focused on, not looking beyond the DEI, but also pulling the other training together. So there has been no second tier training, but it sounds like there's this opportunity for leadership training and other topics. How much are you all cross-pollinating? Meaning, I heard someone who maybe does leadership training talk about equity in her training. If we have leadership training that can apply, is that process flexible?
Yes, so we are definitely cross-pollinated internally with regards to the like leadership development work that we do, and the required DEI training that we develop curricula for both of those categories, as well as provide instructors for that. And so both hands are talking to each other. Leadership development is if you're interested in that with regards to being on the same page and to be able to complement that curriculum that we have for leading others or leading organizations, please get in contact with Rachel Stitch, and she can be the liaison between you and that program manager, Jesse Cronin, who I know is very open to this and has been talking with some of the other vendors about getting in and understanding what that curriculum is about, so that your leadership approach can be tailored, or you just keep that in mind. With regards to with regards to like what you're allowed to, so we're under contract with you all for specific courses under specific categories. And so everybody's different. Some people are in all categories, some people are in one category, some are in a sort of smattering of one or the other, or 2 or 3 or something like that. And so if you do have, it's okay, like equity, diversity, inclusion, obviously that spans everything. So if that's mentioned, talked about in some other classes, that's fine. If that's a central focus, really the defining factor there is not about whether it's talked about, but whether or not you received a contract under that category or not. So it's really about that course or courses that you received, that you won through the bidding process. And then those are the ones that you can possibly, that are open to provide. So if you were just in the, if you just got awarded a contract under the DEI category for elective DEI, all those are on hold right now. But if you also want a contract for the leadership and you have 3 courses in that, then talk with your learning consultant if you haven't already. I mean, I'm sure you already have, but about running those trainings. But if you didn't get that, if you have a leadership course and it's not mentioned in your contract anywhere, you didn't win that under that RFP, under that with a bid, then that's not possible. So it's a little, and does that make sense?
And just to add, yeah, our contracts and procurement team will want to make sure that whatever course you're saying falls under that leadership category, it has to fit the definition of when we submitted or when we solicited for that RFP, it has to fit the definition of that leadership, how that was defined under that RFP. And so they're going to really be comparing that. And if it doesn't fall under that strict definition, then they won't allow it, is what they've communicated to us. So we'll have to work in partnership with our contracts and procurement team to see if that's something that we can offer under that category.
And we also need
Deja.
course descriptions to see what is going to be taught during those trainings, to make sure that they fall under the leadership,
or the whatever category it might be,
or whatever
like
category,
leadership or something else. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you all. Very clear answers. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And Karen Peabody mentioned about state library clients. Yes, have them come check out the website. That'd be great. And Rachel replied. Rachel, you had a comment. Did you want to say anything about the less registrations comment that you made?
No, that was pretty much it.
Okay. All right. Other comments, questions?
I see a question in the chat about the contracts.
Yes, for the renewal, I believe I responded to that, but those renewals are automatic unless you hear something differently. But for the renewal, I don't think that action will be needed for any of those renewals. They haven't in the past, but if so, it just might be a signature for an amendment. We'll find out whether that's going to be needed or not. But no, you won't need to do any.
Be an amendment. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay. Question real quick.
Don Reed.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. So years ago when working for DSHS, about 20% of our workforce was over on the east side of the mountains, and we started going to them rather than requiring them to travel to Olympia or Seattle. Has there been any thought given to, I don't know what the percentages are now for the state total number of employees, but any thought of having a training location, either Moses Lake, which is very central, or Spokane for the east side folks for live courses?
I think right now, with the workload we're experiencing and the staffing we have, we are really depending on the virtual classes to fill that need. And we've seen them utilizing it from those areas of the state, definitely. And we are offering it through our single agency agreements. We're offering that opportunity to bring the instructor to you wherever that may be. As far as putting open enrollment classes out there, it's just a matter of capacity right now. We just don't have it.
In the past, we have used some of the colleges out there, but that's usually when we start hearing requests for having open enrollment. I know something like the first aid, for example, that one kind of has to be a in-person class. You can't teach that virtually. And so that might be a possibility or opportunity for us to schedule something of that need at one of those colleges. We usually utilize those colleges for the open enrollment offerings.
Thank you.
Just real quick, I had a question. I think Justin, you said, or somebody said about being able to extend out of state. And for government employees, is that any state, or what does that, like, I'm working with the sanitation department in New York. So they have their own EAP for their 10,000 employees. I do executive coaching for their director. So I could talk to them. Is that okay?
As long as they're a state agency, yes, you're absolutely welcome to work directly with them. The example for like the Atlanta, Georgia Police Department was that they couldn't send all of their staff to one training, so they didn't really want to do a single agency. And so it was mentioned that we have our open enrollment offerings, and so that way they could just send 3 or 4 at a time, and they could absolutely utilize the open enrollment trainings for that purpose. We do have some out-of-state customers that have asked us to do single agency trainings for them. I've done those for both North Carolina and South Carolina in the past years, but it's really, I would say, to take advantage of that, especially for the open enrollment offerings. If they only have a few people, then you can absolutely invite them and they could attend virtually. So it's kind of the nice part about being in that virtual world now.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tasia. Thanks for that question, Sandra. I just put into, because it does, sometimes it depends on what we're like, if we're selling like LinkedIn Learning licenses or like, Franklin Covey All Access passes, the customer base changes. But I put in the chat sort of how we articulate what our customers are. And then if you click on that link, there are additional links within that paragraph on that web page that you can look at. But we would, I would default to sending folks our way and, connecting with the learning consultant that you usually work with if there are any questions. But we're really looking forward to serving more people in other states. We've done that for years on the periphery of Washington, between Idaho and Oregon, and then other examples like as Tasia mentioned. So if you're doing that kind of work, keep us in mind, and it could be a win-win for everybody, I think.
California, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Harrell.
Yeah, I just think I'm a little bit, it's new information about the out-of-state. So if our tier 2 diversity elective courses are all still on hold for Washington State, it sounds like you're saying now there's an opportunity if we have contacts and can explore options for people outside of the state, that we can still put our courses in your system and then direct them there.
Once they're open, once we're allowed to, and unfortunately the elective DEI courses are the ones that are on hold right now. Once those are been green lighted to say turn them on, then they fall into the category of all these other ones that are active, and all the things that you just mentioned apply with regards to out of state coming here. But unfortunately right now they aren't turned on, they have not been green lighted. So that means for internally for the state and externally, we can't do much with them right now. So.
Got it. And then I guess I have a kind of follow-on question to the question that someone else put into the chat regarding the extension. So these were like 2-year contracts are going to automatically be extended or something through 5 years. But now we've been on hold for over a year. So I mean, for a new entrepreneur, it's devastating. Bottom line, to my bottom line, because I had no idea that was even possible. So I guess I don't know. I'm just curious as to what are y'all thinking about that? Like as an organization?
Well, the contracts are able to extend. We have the ability to extend these contracts up to 6 years. So yes, we anticipate most of you will want to extend that when the 2 years are up, and most likely it'll be just through a quick amendment to your contract.
And then on the tail end of that, about 6 years, is the way it's worded is any any work that's been, any work orders that have been submitted prior to the end of that 6 years, you have a 12 months to actually complete those. But when you're in that last 12 months of the contract or the 7th year, anything, you have to sort of work on that schedule. So if you're halfway through that period and you're like, oh, I want to do more classes, then that would be more difficult. During that first 6 years, definitely it would be okay to do that. So it would be an option for a total of 7.
Thank you.
These are great questions. And it's really, I think, a testament to what community, you're all a community, we're a community together, but you're all doing, and especially some of you that are newer, I think it's really, I just can imagine it's helpful to sort of hear other people talking about the same questions and whatnot. So thank you for the questions. Anything really, anything that comes to mind, things you've heard or things you haven't heard on the call today?
Good afternoon. Oh, sorry, Justin. Hey, good
afternoon.
No, go ahead. Yes, I was going to say, as a follow-up to the question about hiring or working with, partnering with single agency agreements for outside agency or the open enrollment courses rather. Once someone goes and sees what courses are available, we just direct them to our learning consultant. Is that the process?
Oh, sorry.
No, go for it. You're going to say the same thing.
Yeah, you can do that, or you can direct them to the website where it talks about learner registration, and it'll guide them through the registration process. And we can also do not only open enrollment, we can, like we talked about before, we can do single agency, for a group.
Yeah, on the bottom of all of those course descriptions, if the learners are clicking on those course descriptions, at the bottom of every single page, it says how to register, and it'll tell them how they can register and fill out the information and who to communicate that with.
Sounds good. Thank you all so much. And thank you for putting this on today and all of the helpful information you all provide. I should have known there was already a form for it. It will never be said that you all do not have a page, a link for every single thing we could ever need. That's number 2. And number 3, while we're shouting out our learning consultants, I have to shout out Rachel Stitch and Marcia Moody. They are the ones that I work with, and obviously they are amazing. They're so helpful. They answer all kinds of questions. Just the emails are flying. They're always so helpful and always so personable. So shout out to my team.
I didn't know we were shouting people out. Renee West, here's the shout out.
Yes, and Renee West. I think you were one of the first names that I connected with after the RFP process. So yes, absolutely nice to put a face to an email signature. Hello, Renee West.
Mary, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. And again, that I'll participate in the shout out because I think I've worked with everybody on the Zoom picture, as well as some of my other colleagues on here too. So thank you all. And I too love the question, because I think a lot of time as a new participant, you may think it's only you stumbling or only you having these questions. And it is grateful. I am grateful to have others asking it. So as a follow-up, because my course that I've been taking is marketing, right? I also teach marketing and keep trying to learn marketing, because I do believe part of this is being your own marketer, right? In addition to what, of course, DES is doing. So I just wanted to share with my colleagues, you might already be doing this, but something that has been helping me is not only reaching out to those maybe that have taken executive coaching from me or other interactions, but I've also been commenting on their pages, like the Department of Social Services and Health, making comments on their pages, reaching out to them, talking about my courses and what I do. And that's been very helpful. I've seen direct individuals that I have tagged signing up for my upcoming courses. So if anybody else is active on LinkedIn, which I'm sure many of us are, that's what's really been helpful to me. And I think that's how I'm going to start building relationships that I didn't have before with a lot of state agencies. They also told me, talking to some of them, that working with a lot, and if I'm saying the wrong words, please apologize, but unions, getting involved with some of the unions, going to lunch and learns, and just introducing myself to a lot of the large unions like at CTAC, et cetera, in order to get myself into the rotation that they do. So those are some things I'm trying as I build my relationships with state agencies. So I just wanted to share that.
Mary, Dr. Tracy was asking what courses you teach.
Yeah, I have 8 of them that are up on the site, and my Oh my gosh, my favorite one that I just did is facilitating with ease. And that's one that went very well. A lot of fun and a lot of excitement, a lot of leadership courses, communication. Tracy, I'm with you on LinkedIn. I'm one of your connections. I'll send it to you, but a lot of them are all about leadership, how to promote yourself, how to promote your brand. Yeah, just be a better workplace colleague too.
And I'd like to offer that
thank you.
As a learning consultant, I'm on LinkedIn. I don't know that all of my coworkers are, but if you want to reach out and connect on LinkedIn, I can also promote anything that I can share out whatever I see you posting. So just another little avenue for everyone.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions?
And Kate Wolf said, is Port of Seattle a customer of the state?
Yes.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I believe so as well.
Yes, they are.
So I just saw I think it was a new RFP that came out, and it looked like for this type of work that we were doing already from a DEI training perspective. So I wasn't sure how that's being connected, or like, why aren't we just the automatic go-tos? Why is there like a whole nother process?
Those are usually, those RFPs are submitted through different programs. That's not through the training program that we solicit out for. And so you'll often see different RFPs coming through or being posted on webs that are outside of our purview. And so it could be a certain division looking for some kind of training. It's not a direct link into the system-wide training that we're providing to the state. I know that might seem a little confusing, but and I'm not sure if that was through DES, but WEBS is for all state agencies. When they want to solicit for RFPs, they're soliciting to anybody to submit for that RFP. It's not just DES through that. So I'm not quite sure which one you saw, but yeah, it's pretty generalized.
And we have, there's statewide contracts, formerly known as master contracts, and now we call them statewide contracts, and where you have different categories, and it's for consulting type work, mainly, executive consulting, and but there's more of a connection now. We've worked with that team at DES because they're part of vetting these. They do an RFP and they pre-review vendors that then are available through these DES contracts. So if you're eligible as an entity, you can come there and say, yeah, I want this type of coaching, this type of diversity, equity, inclusion coaching or something like that. But we made a distinction and a connection with them so that if they're talking about, if people are interested in classes, a customer, let's say the Port of Seattle is like, well, I'm actually interested in a class. I'll go there and they'll say, well, wait, I see this, they talk about consulting, but then we have a link directly to our page, which of course speaks to the courses that we offer, by category or by keyword. So we're trying to integrate that, and but there are, as Tasia was saying, there are some that they want this specific thing and maybe they haven't seen, or they thought didn't meet their needs, so they can do that as a state agency as they like. We hope they come through us, but they have it's our prerogative.
I had a quick question about a comment that I received on the feedback after a customer service class. And this may be a different conversation. So feel free to say later, Karin, that we'll deal with that later. But the comment was, it was a customer service class, and afterwards the comment was, this seems to have been a class that was geared towards a neurotypical audience. And I thought, shoot, I must not have done a good enough job at the beginning as I'm addressing DEI and all the different pathways for communication, for asking for what they need. And I was wondering, I just had not heard that comment before, and I was wondering if anybody had any thoughts or if I could glean from your wisdom on that topic.
Any other facilitators think that they might be able to speak to that?
I could probably speak to it as Dave at Northwest Therapy Group. And this, in addition to being a trainer, I'm also a full-time therapist. And so when people are talking neurotypical, they're talking on a spectrum, but somewhere between autism, ADHD, and other learning disabilities. So most of the time it's autism, and then it's gets pretty complicated from there around social milieu, interpreting emotional cues versus very flat stated cues, things like that. ADHD would be more, it depends on if it's hyperactive or combined type or inattentive type. And then especially in the inattentive type, there's a new tendency to really look at rejection sensitivity dysphoria. So people operating in the neurotypical on the neurodiversity piece are even just calling into customer services for my folks on that spectrum is a huge lift and terrifying, and we have to pregame them. So sort of probably helping people to sort of conceptualize what it's like for somebody to call in who has no ability to even or has difficulty even conceptualizing how to have the conversation, what questions to ask, and no real confidence in interpreting the emotional cues communicated. But I could talk more on this, so feel free to reach out.
Right. So I
Dave,
guess just as a quick follow-up, Dave, this was for a group of people who are on the receiving end of doing customer service, like this is part of their regular job. And so I'm wondering what would have been some really inclusive, helpful language for me to use as I mean, perhaps I needed to be more specific. I want to be specific without calling out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'd have to think about it.
Okay.
So I'm already, go ahead.
Oh, Dave, I was just going to say, if you can think about it, perhaps you could send to us any links, that we could share out with the group here. I think that could be a good, if you have some like, they really got it. And then I think that would be really helpful. And Dr. Harrell, the question was about, content that's geared towards and presented in a way that's for a neurotypical audience versus somebody that's not neurotypical, that that's on the spectrum perhaps. And so that's what we've been talking about. So back to you, Karin, if you have any follow-up.
In those instances, you would hope that they would provide some kind of an example of how you could have met that need for them. And so it's really hard when it's so generalized like that. So, I mean, I feel for you trying to problem solve without knowing what those needs were that didn't get met.
Well, I mean, we just want to keep doing better, right? And so I thought, boy, if perhaps anyway, Dave Boyd, thanks for speaking up, and I look forward to hearing any feedback you have, because I'd like to incorporate some better language so that the welcome that I am offering and the pathways that I'm marking out at the beginning of a workshop are maybe more clearly laid out for this person. Thanks.
Yeah, Dave, if you wanted to send Karin maybe your email address, so that way you guys can also chat on offline too, that would be probably pretty helpful.
Sure
Dr.
thing.
Linda.
Thank you.
Dr. Linda, do you have a question?
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't unmute myself. I just would add that I think we need to also be attuned to some subtleties in emerging language, such as neurodivergent and neurodiversity, which indicates a range of terms that are being used, where neurodiversity might indicate people who do not consider themselves disabled, people with just differences in the workplace. So they might have been communicating to you, Karen, a whole different range of abilities, not disabilities. So there's a lot of differences that are being raised now in DEI that don't necessarily communicate things on the spectrum, or that just communicate differences. So I would just add that for consideration. I wasn't in your shoes. So, you know, people that are bipolar but fully functioning, you know, people that just have different ways of looking at things or coping with the world. But neurodiversity is very different than being on the spectrum. So I would just add that for consideration.
Thank you. We've got about 8 minutes left. Does anybody have any other questions that they'd like to ask? Or topics that they want to bring up? Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Rachel then for a wrap up.
Actually, I think I do have a quick question. If this is just general dialogue among family.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Family just chatting. Then, since I am one of the people that was relatively new into the DES training space, and again, thanks to Renee West, who I think I bonded. I mean, one would be freaked out if you thought that you won this amazing contract. I have like literally, I think I submitted, if there were 40 class, like this is my thing. So for this to have gone south the way this has, one might have freaked out, right? Fortunately, I'm divinely inspired and I have multiple talents and was able to somewhat pivot. But I just wanted to say, as family, I am open to anyone who does have a contract where there's actual training that is happening within this space. If you need a wonderfully dynamic and I would say cognitively diverse individual who sees things differently, I am open to partner with anyone that's a part of this learning and training community. And I look forward to Tier 2 DEI training being offered. But in the meantime, I just wanted to put that out there. And if you're aware of any other type of training or consulting, I'm a coach and all the things. So by all means, I am here, speaker. So I'm here and putting myself out there to create some revenue opportunities, because this has been $0 in a year and a half. So I'm here for my people. I'm here to serve. That's it.
Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate it. And yes, definitely reach out to each other as, you know, sources for each other, information, knowledge sharing, all of that. I just want to say thank you so much for you all showing up. This was a great turnout and great engagement, and we really appreciate that. Announcements. The only announcements I really have is we will be following up with an email with some resources and with a copy of the recording today so that you can have that to look back on if you need it. Our next meeting is going to be October 10th from 1 to 2:30. Though that invite should be going out fairly soon. And then during the time between now and then, we'll build the agenda. If you have agenda items that you would really like to discuss, let me know. That would be great. Because we want to be addressing the topics that are important to you during this time and making it valuable. So I think that's it, unless anybody has any further questions or concerns.
Thank you all for always just being so resourceful and having great information, and just your willingness to always help us through the process. You all are rock stars.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thanks all.
All right.
Okay.